Hello, my name is Chloe, and today I'm here to talk about the books that I read last week. So, it is probably going to be a shorter video. I'm going to try not to rant about some things, so let's just get into it. So, I read one middle grade. I read Cupcake Diaries graphic novel. This one's called Katie Batter Up. It's number 5. So, Katie is kind of like the Christy from Babysitters Club. She's the one who founded the Cupcake Club, and now they're trying to plan her grandmother's birthday and do cupcakes for it. And so they're trying to figure out a time that the 4 girls, because the premise of this series is it's 4 girls who have a cupcake club and they have made a little business out of it. So they're trying to find a time when they can get together to make cupcakes, and everybody else has sports going on or things going on, and Katie doesn't. And so she's kind of feeling like she needs an extracurricular activity. So she tries a bunch of things. She's not very good until she figures out that she has a natural gift for softball. So she starts playing softball, and then she has to think about, like, is it worth it? Is it worth the added stress? And she finds a love for running, and I love that as a fellow runner. I love that, and there's no pressure in it and all of that. So I really like this book, and it made me want to go on a run and then eat some cupcakes. Super cute. I have, I've talked about it before. I have not read the actual books, but these graphic novels are great. I've passed a couple on to my daughters, not all of them. This one, there is a lot of bullying going on, so I'm not going to pass this on to her just because they are late elementary, early middle, I think they're early middle school, and it's just discusses topics that are a little bit older than she is, but otherwise it's pretty clean, pretty appropriate. So that's my only middle grade. Now, I binged the rest of this season series by Beverly LaHaye and Terry Blackstock. So the premise of this series, I read the first one last week. So some of you, a shocking amount of you guys have read the series, and I had never heard of it. And so I was really excited to find it. But I bought the first one on Pango to complete a different order. And then I was able to find 2, 3, and 4 for adult maximum $2 each on Pango. And so I have all of them. But so Showers in Season is number 2. And this one is Barry and Tori. They are married. They have 2 kids. Their marriage is not great. She stays at home with her 2 kids. They're young. And then she finds out she's pregnant unexpectedly. And they find out that their baby that they're expecting has Down syndrome. And so I said it when I talked about the first one that I think the characters in this book, in this series, are much more conservative than I am. And so I liked the crisis of faith in that you're discussing what do you do, how do you deal with the news that your daughter or son is going to have a severe disability. What I didn't like is the abortion conversation is very, very, very heavy-handed. Again, my personal beliefs aside, I just don't want it to be that heavy-handed. So yeah, I loved this book for the community element because it's about a bunch of people on a cul-de-sac and all their different stories and the way their lives intertwine. You definitely need to read this series in order because you see the characters from the other book. This book mainly focuses on Tori and Barry as they are expecting this baby, but you get everybody else's storylines also. So yeah, I liked this book. I didn't love it because of just the kind of heavy-handed conservative nature. It's a little hypocritical, and Barry was raised with a brother with, I think, severe autism, and very, very severe, and so he doesn't want that for his child, and so you can see where both sides are coming from. There's just a lot of kind of intense messaging otherwise. So there's that. And then my most hated character in a long time comes from Times and Seasons. This is number 3, and this follows Kathy, and Kathy is a single mom that we have met in the other books, and she's got 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and one of her boys is getting into trouble. So in the earlier books, he was arrested twice for different misdemeanors. He's 15 years old, and in this one, he gets caught selling drugs. So this is her trying to parent her child and, figure out the dynamics of trying to be a strict enough parent and disciplinarian that he is learning from his actions, but also not abandon him when he's vulnerable. And so I think that is fascinating. I love hearing about that. The reason this is my most hated book and character out of the series for sure is because she is engaged to this guy named Mark, I think. No, Mark's her kid. I forget his name, but whatever. She's engaged, and he's the most overstepping arrogant, just awful man. He, I mean, like, has the worst God complex, and like just tells her how to parent, tells her multiple times that her parenting style is wrong and that like basically this is her fault. And oh my gosh, he was awful. And they like delay the wedding to kind of make it so Mark, the son, can be there. And I was like, girl, take that delay as a sign. Let's just get out. And he has a daughter, and the way he parents, he's so hypocritical. It is so like, he oversteps in so many ways, including like going to the kids' dads and telling the dad what he should be doing. And oh my gosh, his opinion is capital T truth in his mind, and yuck. And the thing about this book is you're not supposed to dislike him like that. And again, with the more conservative view, this is very much in the women should be subservient and submissive, and I just have a hard time with that. I'm not gonna lie, I have a hard time with that. So this book I did not like. Next is Season of Blessing, and this is the final one. And this follows kind of the matriarch of the cul-de-sac. So her and her husband, early in the series, they go overseas to do mission work, and then she comes back because her husband is a heart doctor, I think, and he's a little concerned about her health. So he wants her to come back, get a full checkup, all the things. And so she does, and she's got some intense health issues. So this book definitely deals with grief and death and the eyes, like how you view it as a Christian. And it was heavy, it was hard. All of these have a solid amount of cheese, and so I don't know, and like they are, I didn't know how we were supposed to feel, because I almost didn't feel sad because she didn't feel sad, and I wanted to be more on the journey with her. Like, I can totally understand how, as a person of faith, you're content with whatever God's will, you have an eternal focus, and I love that. I love seeing that. I want to see that, but I don't think that's your first reaction when you get a scary health diagnosis. And so, and it wasn't for her, but I wanted to more walk through that with her, to be more emotionally invested, because I just kind of lacked some of that. So next is A Bit Much by Lindsay Rush. So this is a collection of poetry, and I saw somebody recommending it for fans of like Kate Bear and different kind of just contemporary poets, and I loved it. Again, I loved it. I ordered myself a copy. It's not here yet, so I can't show it to you. I'll put a picture up, of course, but it is poetry about just what it's like to be a woman in our culture at this time. And there's things that are funny, there's things that are heartfelt, there's things about falling in love, there's things about society's expectations. Like, I really like it. I read it physically because I did have it on audio, and I don't really like I like poetry that way in some cases, and I do like hearing the artist read their own work. However, I felt like this was one that I wanted to see line by line, and all of them are written a little bit differently, so I really wanted to read it with my eyes. And I took a long time to read it because I kind of wanted to just soak in every poem and really think about like how it impacted my life or how it applied. And so yeah, it took me a while. I wouldn't say everyone was a banger, but in general, I gave it 4 stars. And then last is The Family Experiment by John Mars. So this is in the same universe as The One, The Passengers, The Marriage Act, and I think there's one more book in this kind of universe. And while you don't need to read those to enjoy this one, I do think it is beneficial for sure. So the premise of this book is that it's a near future where, and I call this a dystopian because it's a near future where having children is exponentially expensive. It is impossible for the average person to have kids, and both in like fertility treatments as well as raising them and all of that. And so there's a show called The Family Experiment where 5 couples and a single guy are given the opportunity to raise a virtual baby from birth to the age 18 in an expedited fashion where it happens over 9 months. So the first month they're a newborn, second month they're 9 months old, then they're 2, et cetera, et cetera. It happens kind of in these stages. And the world gets to put their 2 cents in. And so people get to interact, and as they're watching, just as any reality show, they get to do black hearts or red hearts based on what they approve of or don't approve of. And the last couple or person standing with their baby, and the most popular vote gets the opportunity to either keep their virtual child and continue to parent it, or they have to delete their virtual child and they are given the money to have an actual biological human child. And so the things I loved about this book, I loved the commentary around social media, our lives online, our use of artificial intelligence, how much we are dependent on that, and how much we don't know about that, and just the social commentary around that. I also thought it was really interesting to think about AI, and as it becomes more prevalent, more popular, kind of what rights do they have? What rights do the artificially created bots have, if any? And so I really love that discussion and just the whole use of AI. I am a late adopter on anything technology, and so I am behind the times, and it scares me a little bit, but thinking it through, it's really an interesting thing to kind of bend my mind around. The things I didn't like about this book is, as with all John Marrs, there are a lot of characters. There's, like I said, 5 couples and an individual guy. So that's 11 people, all with individual backstories. And this is why I don't think you need to read the other books, but specifically the one and the passengers, there are characters directly from those books in this book. And so having that character knowledge, I think, would help. There's also a lot of reference to the passengers plot. And so I have not read that one, and I feel like it definitely would have helped if I did. So with John Marrs, there's always a lot of characters. This one also jumps in. So it jumps in perspectives. It also jumps in timeline. And so I think reading them physically is the better option. I listened on audio, and the audio was fantastic. So you're watching this show, and the commercials sound like actual commercials. And because it's this near future dystopian world in which there's all sorts of different artificial intelligence things to help you have a better life. And so I thought that part was really interesting. This does have short chapters. It does have mixed media, so reading it physically would not be that much of a feat. And so I don't know. I mean, I recommend reading it physically over the audio, even though the audio was really good, just for clarity's sake, because it takes a while to get acquainted with the characters, but then also with the timeline shifts, and everybody has intense secrets, some of which are a little over the top in my opinion. And there's one character who is an individual guy, and his backstory, if you read this book, his backstory was too much for me. It just got too convoluted in the whole, revenge of the AI, and I like it added to the conversation of how much are we kind of playing God here, and so it added to the conversation, but the way it was done just felt messy, and the ending felt messy and over the top and too much. And so while I loved the plot and the idea of this book, I felt like we got a little distracted, and I felt like we went a little over the top on some things. And like I said, I'm gonna keep this on my shelf because I think if I were to reread it, I would like to read the universe in publication order, just to make sure that I'm getting all the Easter eggs and that I know as much about these characters' backgrounds as possible, because I think any ounce of clarity is helpful. Not that it's confusing, it's just a lot to keep track of. And so I enjoyed this book. I'm giving it 3 stars. I was emotionally invested in some of the characters, and I am doing right now a weekend readathon on Patreon. So I'm updating Patreon frequently with my thoughts on things and what we're doing in personal life and all of that kind of stuff. And I told them last night I was kind of scared. I was home alone with just the baby, and I was kind of scared because there's some sidelines in this that I'm like, gosh, these people are freaky, and there's weird stuff going on, and artificial intelligence, like I said, kind of scares me. So, yeah, there's a little bit of that going on in this, but overall, I would say it's a 3-star for me. If I would have read it physically, maybe it would have been more. If I would have read it in order, maybe it would have been more. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but fascinating concept, not the best execution. So for a short video, that didn't end up being very short because I have a lot to say. Not my biggest reading week, but definitely one that made me think and feel a lot of things. And so call it a win. So that is everything. What have you guys read this week? What are you up to? Let me know all the things, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.